end of apartheid 23 years ago. South Africa is considering completely closing the Rwandan embassy in Pretoria.
More than 100 prisoners have been released from Douala Central Prison in Cameroon. This comes after President Paul Biya pardoned 500 inmates who are serving short-term jail sentences. Douala Central Prison is notoriously overcrowded, and the release of inmates is expected to reduce congestion in the prison. And Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta is in neighboring Guinea, where he called on rebels in northern Mali to start talks with the government in Bamako. We have details in this CFI roundup.
116 prisoners were released from a Douala prison on Tuesday. A total number of 538 prisoners at the New Bell prison were granted a presidential pardon. The prisoners are highly relieved to be free. I thank God for releasing me after a 3-year period and for granting me good health all this time. These new releases, granted by President Paul Biya, will help relieve some of the pressure on Douala's central prison, which was built to house 800 prisoners, but now has 3,000. The President of Mali, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, is on an official visit to Guinea-Conakry. This is the Malian head of state's first official visit to Guinea. President Keïta thanked his host, President Alpha Condé, for his support during the crisis in Mali, and he called on armed groups in northern Mali to take part in talks. When brothers talk, and when we listen to each other, when the Malian leadership can be confident, we can move forward. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta's visit will last 3 days, and during this time a number of partnership agreements will be signed between the two countries. An international conference devoted to migration has just ended Tuesday in Rabat in Morocco. Politicians and experts from Africa and Europe discussed the eventuality of providing undocumented migrants access to basic rights and services. The conference coincides with pressure on Melilla, a Spanish enclave in northern Morocco. Growing numbers of sub-Saharan migrants are constantly arriving in the Spanish enclave.
Crimeans are bracing for a referendum on whether it should quit Ukraine. Meantime, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius says sanctions against Russia could come within a week. Regardless of the referendum, power is already shifting on the ground. Pro-Russia armed men have been consolidating their hold on key sites in Crimea. Nick Patenwals got close to a military base and saw how those armed men took command.
Of power at one military base in the Crimea. It's not friendly, but very much in charge, and apparently pro-Russian. The Ukrainian flag here pulled down fast. Let me show you how, in a matter of hours, it all unraveled. Earlier that morning, the flag was up. We came because their commander, Vladimir Sadovnik, had been kidnapped the day before at a checkpoint. His deputy here says the pro-Russian Unity Party were behind it. The commander's called his wife to say he's okay.
If they try to blackmail us into giving up the base, it won't happen, and we will call his abductors terrorists and won't negotiate with them.
We meet Vladimir's wife, Yulia, at his home, who hasn't slept with worry. Her husband called her 40 minutes ago from a new number to say he was held in Simferopol's military headquarters, now in pro-Russian hands. We couldn't confirm that, but she calls back and says she's Vladimir's wife. But nobody wants to talk to her. They want, I think, him to surrender, she says, but I believe in my husband and his convictions. Back at the base, things have moved fast. The deputy tells us so-called self-defense forces have burst in. They're not happy to be filmed. He tells me he's a Ukrainian resident, but not much else that's polite.
Well, this is perhaps part of the answer of what happens to the thousands of Ukrainian soldiers still on their bases, still loyal to the new government in Kiev. Pro-Russian militia muscling in.
The deputy explains to me there are about 15 gunmen inside, and they want to take 10 vehicles from the base. He adds that they came back with Vladimir, the commander kidnapped earlier. This is how power changes hands here, bloodless, but in the shadow of kidnapping, and at the end, of an AK-47. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Bakhchisarai, Ukraine.
That report on Crimea will now take us to our second break.
QCell's 4G internet service is the Gambia's fastest and cheapest 4G fixed wireless internet. With QCell's 4G, you can access the internet at unbeatable speeds on your laptop or desktop computer. You can also use your mobile or tablet to browse the internet via Wi-Fi. QCell's 4G internet can keep you connected either in your home or in your office. For a limited time, get 50% off regular equipment and 100% off corporate equipment, as well as free installation and free QCell credit. For more information, call 333-3253 or 333-3104. QCell 4G Internet. Fast, affordable and reliable. QCell. Sunibus. The Gambia's quality network.
And before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of the day's top stories. Basic and Secondary Education Minister Fatou Lamin Faye has inaugurated a committee tasked with the responsibility for the appointment, promotion and discipline of teachers in grades 6, 7 and 8. Authorities in South Africa have threatened to close down the Rwandan diplomatic mission in Pretoria following allegations linking Kigali to a spate of attacks on Rwandan dissidents in South Africa. Mali's new president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, is visiting Guinea-Conakry, where he called on rebels in the north of the country to lay down their arms and start peace talks with the government in Bamako. And Crimeans are preparing for Sunday's referendum on whether to quit Ukraine against the backdrop of new sanctions, against the backdrop of new threats of sanctions against Russia. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us.
ci réewi Gambia fii lañ ko liggéeyee dañ toog nag seet ba xam nag li nga xam ne moo baax ci suñu yaram ñun réewi Gambia mami mayonnaise bii maa leen ko wax kuy xewati jëlal kuy lekk sa kër jëlal ku soxla mayonnaise jël ko li ma leen wax moom la te xam ngeen ne yaay ministère lu mu leen musa wax rek moom la mayonnaise bii benn gën a koo neex nag benn gën a koo dàq ci biir réew mi fii dama leen wax ne packagé wuñ ko fii de